All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down the urgent message from Habtom Araya's book, Wake Up Africans, It Is Your Time. This is a seriously powerful call to action, and we're going to unpack its core arguments for you right now. So, the book kicks off with this incredibly powerful idea that Africa is standing at one of the most critical moments in its entire history. And we're not just talking about another phase of change here. No, this is a decisive turning point, the kind that's going to shape its future for generations to come. And honestly, the potential is just undeniable. I mean, think about it. We're talking about a continent that's literally overflowing with natural resources, immense cultural strength, and get this, the youngest, most energetic population on the entire planet. All the building blocks for unbelievable prosperity, they're already there. So that brings us to the big puzzle, the central contradiction, right? If all that potential is there, why does the continent still face these persistent challenges? Things like high unemployment, food insecurity, and this dependency on outside aid. It just doesn't add up. And that's the tough question the book really forces us to look at. This gets us to the heart of the book's argument, what the author calls Africa's Great Contradiction. It's all about that shocking gap between what's possible and what's actually happening. And you can see that contradiction laid out so clearly here. On one side, you've got all this immense potential, the resources, the youth, the untapped innovation. But on the other side, you see these relentless challenges, unemployment, dependency, skilled people leaving. The book makes a really strong point here. This gap isn't just bad luck. It's the direct result of specific ways of thinking and systems that, frankly, have to be challenged. Okay, so what's really behind this contradiction? Well, the book's diagnosis points to something it calls the invisible chains. Think of them as these deep internal barriers, the kind that most people don't even see. The first of these invisible chains, the author calls it mental slavery. And really, it's a crisis of mindset. It's that voice of self-doubt that tells you you're not good enough. It's when people are constantly looking outside themselves for approval, and they're actually afraid of thinking independently. That self-doubt, that becomes the number one roadblock to any kind of real innovation or progress. Then there's the second chain, economic slavery. And this one is all about dependency. You know, when a person or a community or even a whole country depends on outside help or foreign systems, they basically hand over the keys to their own future. The author uses a great analogy. It's like being spoon-fed. Sure, it might solve your hunger right now, but in the long run, it just makes you weaker and less independent. And this is summed up by a really powerful principle from the book, You are a servant to whatever you obey. Just let that sink in for a second. It means that whatever you consistently follow, whether it's discipline and principles or greed and taking shortcuts, that's the thing that ends up controlling your life. This idea of being controlled, it's a perfect lens for understanding corruption. The book doesn't see corruption as just a single bad decision. It frames it as an addiction, a disease. It starts so small, right? A tiny, harmless compromise. Then you justify it. It's not a big deal. Then you do it again, and it gets easier. Before you know it, you're completely dependent on those corrupt advantages just to succeed. It's a trap that sneaks up on you and then takes complete control. Okay, so as if those internal chains weren't enough to deal with, the book then throws a major curveball. It introduces this huge sense of urgency, a global warning, basically saying that the old escape routes, those doors are closing and they're closing fast. And here's the warning, plain and simple. That old strategy of just looking for opportunities in other countries, well, that's becoming a seriously risky bet. The whole world is changing. Migration just isn't the safety valve it used to be. And to get a sense of the scale of this, just look at this number. We're talking about over 20 million Africans living outside the continent. A huge number of them are in these labor-intensive jobs, and that's the key to understanding the threat that's coming. So here's the critical point. Those very jobs that millions of migrants have counted on for decades, they're vanishing. Why? Well, you've got artificial intelligence and automation just eating up those traditional labor jobs. And at the exact same time, developed countries are getting way stricter with immigration to protect their own workers. The writing is on the wall, you know? The doors are closing. So we've diagnosed the problem, we feel the urgency, but this isn't about doom and gloom. Let's pivot and talk about the solutions. The path forward that the book lays out is all about building a new tomorrow, and it starts with taking control, with agency, and a totally new way of thinking. And the core idea is actually really simple, but it's completely transformational. The answer is not to keep looking outward, waiting for a rescue that's just not coming. The answer is to look inward, to build, to create. It's a massive shift from being a passive receiver to becoming an active creator. So, what does that actually look like, focusing inward? Well, it's not just one magic bullet. It's a combination of things. It takes unity, it takes personal responsibility, and it absolutely requires ethical leadership. You bring those three things together, and that's the recipe that can heal society and finally unlock all that incredible potential we were talking about. This really comes down to a strategic shift in mindset. You've got the old thinking over here, the one that says, oh, we don't have enough resources, or all the good opportunities are somewhere else, or we have to depend on aid. The new thinking, it just completely flips that script. It says, no, we manage and multiply the resources we already have. It says opportunity is something we build right here at home. And maybe most importantly, we create our own systems. And this next quote, I just love this because it totally reframes the whole idea of migration. It says, let us migrate with purpose within Africa. Africa is our home, wherever we are on this continent. Wow. I mean, that's a call for teamwork, right? For sharing skills and building the continent together from the inside out. It's such a powerful idea. And all of this brings us to the end, to what the book calls the final question. And it's a question that puts the responsibility right back on each and every one of us. So after laying everything out, the problems, the solutions, the urgency, the book delivers its final crystal clear diagnosis. The fundamental challenge is not a lack of resources. The real challenge is a lack of three things: discipline, ethical leadership, and coordinated execution. And so we're left with the book's ultimate challenge, and I'm just going to leave it with you to think about. This isn't a question for some distant government or some big institution. No, this one is for every single person listening right now. What will you do with what you now know?